It was during my 40th birthday dinner, a grand event at our family estate, that the envelope arrived. Gloria, my mother-in-law, had insisted on hosting it, despite never having acknowledged my birthday before in our 15 years of marriage. Her sudden interest in planning this celebration should have raised red flags. Go ahead, open it, dear. Gloria's voice was sweet, but laced with a hidden bite, as she handed me the envelope in front of our guests. A special gift from Thomas and me. My husband, Thomas, shifted in his seat, deliberately avoiding my gaze. That should have been the second warning sign. I unsealed the envelope, fully aware of the eyes on me. Inside, I found a legal document, a notice of eviction demanding that I vacate the mansion in 30 days. Surprise! Gloria's triumphant voice sliced through the silence. Thomas has finally decided to upgrade to a younger model, someone who deserves to share in the Harrison fortune. I didn't flinch as I read the words. My voice remained calm, as I politely asked our guests to excuse us for a private family conversation. The only outward sign that my world had just been shattered was a slight narrowing of my eyes, something Thomas would have noticed if he were paying attention. But he wasn't. He hadn't really looked at me in months, not since his mother introduced him to Madeline, the 25-year-old daughter of her personal trainer. You can't fight this, Olivia, Gloria continued after the guests had left. The prenup is airtight. Everything belongs to the Harrison family. You'll leave with nothing, just like you came in. I glanced around the grand dining room, the antique furniture I had painstakingly restored, the art collection I had carefully built, all the assets Gloria thought belonged solely to her precious son. I am Olivia Bell Harrison, and at 40, I was about to teach my mother-in-law an expensive lesson she'd never forget. The prenup, I smiled softly. You mean the one that says any business assets acquired during the marriage go to the spouse who built them? Gloria waved her hand dismissively. We both know Thomas built Harrison Enterprises from scratch. You were just his arm candy. I pulled out my phone and opened a folder I'd been carefully keeping for the past 15 years. Actually, let me show you something. Thomas finally met my gaze, panic creeping across his face. He knew what was coming. He had counted on me staying silent, on my desire to protect his reputation. That was his mistake. Here's the incorporation paperwork for Harrison Enterprises, I said, pulling up the documents on my tablet. Notice whose signature is on the founder's line. Mine. The original business plan, that's also mine. The seed money, I gave Gloria a pointed look. $3 million from my family's investment firm. Gloria's face turned crimson. Thomas said he built it all. Thomas said a lot of things, I replied. Did he ever tell you that when you introduced us, he was just months away from bankruptcy? That his successful real estate business didn't have a single profitable property? That's a lie, Gloria objected. Thomas is brilliant with business. I pulled up more documents. Here are the bankruptcy filings Thomas was preparing before we met. And here's the business license showing that I was already an established investment banker. Want to see the records where I turned his failing company into a thriving one? Thomas stood up suddenly, his face draining of color. Olivia, stop. Stop what? Telling the truth. I turned to Gloria. Your son is very good at pretending to be successful. The right clothes, the right car, the right connections, but for the past 15 years, I've been the one working those 18-hour days, making deals, building relationships. While Thomas played golf, I built his failing business into the billion-dollar enterprise it is now. Gloria's hands trembled as she reached for the documents. But all the properties are in the Harrison name. Under Harrison Enterprises, I corrected, which, as the incorporation documents clearly state, is owned by me. Thomas is an employee, an incredibly well-paid one, but still just an employee. You're lying, Gloria shrieked. Thomas, tell her she's lying. But Thomas, pale and defeated, didn't respond. He knew I was telling the truth. I continued pulling up documents on my tablet. Here are the minutes from 15 years of board meetings, where I made every major decision. Bank statements showing I personally guaranteed every loan. Client contracts naming me as CEO and primary shareholder. But the mansion, Gloria stammered, is owned by Harrison Enterprises. I finished, just like the properties in Aspen and Martha's Vineyard. The cars, the artwork, everything you thought belonged to your son. My phone buzzed, and I saw the confirmation message from my lawyer. The divorce papers had been filed, along with an emergency motion to remove Thomas from all company positions. So, I smiled at Gloria. About that eviction notice. Gloria's face contorted in fury, as she crumpled the eviction notice she had gleefully handed me earlier. This is outrageous. I am calling our family lawyer. Warren Mitchell. I smirked. He's currently on the phone with my legal team, going over the documents I sent this morning, including some rather interesting emails between Thomas and Madeline. Thomas' head shot up. You knew about the affair, the plans to push me out, the secret account you thought I didn't know about. I pulled up more documents. You really should have paid more attention during the technology security briefings I set up for the company. Every email sent through Harrison Enterprises servers is archived, including those lovely exchanges where you and Madeline planned how to spend my company's money after I was gone. Gloria lunged for my tablet, but I effortlessly moved it out of her reach. Careful, destroying evidence is a serious offense. Just ask Thomas, he's about to face some very serious legal challenges. Legal challenges? Gloria scoffed. What are you talking about? Well, for starters, there's the issue of Thomas using company funds to finance his affair, the unauthorized wire transfers, the fraudulent statements to shareholders. I said, turning to Thomas, remember that investment opportunity you pitched to the board last month, the one that made us $30 million. Would you like to explain how you took credit for my work, or should I just play the recording? Thomas slouched deeper into his chair, his face ashen. For 15 years, he'd basked in the glory of my hard work, portraying himself as a business genius while I quietly kept everything running. Now, all those carefully constructed lies were crumbling around him. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from our head of security. As I had instructed, they'd already changed the access codes to all company properties and revoked Thomas's credentials. You can't do this to my son. Gloria's voice rose in panic. We are Harrisons. Do you even realize who we are in this city? I know exactly who you are, I answered, my tone steady. A family living off the reputation built by others. Did you ever wonder why Thomas's ventures failed before he met me? Why nothing succeeded until I stepped in? I pulled up another file. Here's a report from 2008, the year before I met Thomas. His company had hemorrhaged $8 million on failed developments. Want to explain where all that money went, Thomas? But Thomas wasn't listening. He was too absorbed in watching his company email access disappear, his credit cards being cancelled, his entire life falling apart. I've spent 15 years shielding you, I told him in a low voice, hiding your mistakes, covering up your failures, making you seem successful, all while you and your mother treated me like a trophy wife who just got lucky. Gloria regained some composure. The rest of the Harrisons won't stand for this. We'll fight you. You mean Aunt Eleanor, Uncle Richard, Cousin Benjamin? I smiled, savoring the moment. They are all major investors in Harrison Enterprises. Thanks to my management, their investments have grown by 300% over the past decade. Care to guess whose side they'll take when they find out how close Thomas came to ruining their portfolios funding his affair? Almost on cue, my phone buzzed with messages from various Harrison family members. Word spread fast in high society, and I'd made sure the right documents landed in the right hands at precisely the right time. You've already lost the family's support, I told Gloria, keeping my voice calm. Check your phone. Her face drained of color as she scrolled through her messages. The Harrison family matriarchs and patriarchs were none too pleased to learn how close they had come to losing everything due to Thomas's reckless actions. As for the mansion, I added, I think I'll hold onto it, but don't worry about the eviction notice. I've already secured a charming apartment for Thomas. 1 bedroom, very cozy, the same building where he set up with Madeline, by the way, though she might not be around much longer, now that his credit cards have been cancelled. Thomas's phone buzzed, and from the look on his face, I knew it was Madeline, likely wondering why their getaway plans had just been derailed. You can't just take everything, Gloria whispered, her previous bravado collapsing. Actually, I can, and I have the paperwork to prove it, I said, rising from my seat and straightening my dress. "Oh, and Gloria, remember last month, when you convinced the hospital board to reject my donation for the children's wing because, as you so elegantly put it, new money has no place in old institutions?" Her face went even paler. The hospital board position had been her prized possession, the symbol of her social standing. "I just spoke to the board president," I said smoothly. "Turns out, they are very interested in my $100 million donation, especially after learning about your embezzlement from the hospital foundation." "I would never," Gloria began to protest, but I cut her off. "The forensic accounting report says otherwise." I glanced down at my tablet. "The board meeting to remove you is tomorrow. Don't bother showing up. I'm now the majority donor and proxy holder for most major Harrison family investments. Your social status was built on their money, and now I control it." My phone buzzed one final time. The confirmation that Thomas's belongings were being moved to his new apartment. It had all been meticulously arranged, just like every other aspect of his life I'd quietly orchestrated over the past 15 years. "Happy birthday to me," I said with a smile as I headed toward the door. "Oh, and Thomas, the board meeting is at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Do try to be on time for once, though I suppose punctuality doesn't matter when you're being voted out as the figurehead CEO. You'll regret this," Gloria called after me, but her voice trembled. "No one humiliates the Harrisons." I turned to face her one last time. "Actually, you did that just fine on your own. I just provided the evidence." 1 month later, I sat in my new office, formerly Thomas's office, reviewing acquisition proposals. The divorce had been swift, thanks to the overwhelming proof of Thomas's misconduct. The Harrison family, more concerned with their investments than family loyalty, had all sided with me. Gloria had quietly been asked to resign from every board and charity she once dominated. Last I heard, she'd moved to Florida, spending her days writing angry emails that my assistant dutifully filed away. Thomas and Madeline's relationship had lasted precisely 3 weeks before she moved on to someone who could actually maintain her lavish lifestyle. As for Thomas, he'd applied for a slew of positions around the city, only to discover that no reputable firm was willing to take on a man with his record of documented misconduct. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Aunt Eleanor. "Darling, we simply must discuss your vision for the new Harrison Foundation. Some of us are thinking, perhaps it's time to rename it. After all, you're the one who built it." I smiled as I looked out over the city skyline. The view was much better from the CEO's office, my office. Maybe it was time for a little rebranding. The Bell Enterprises sign would look perfect on the building. After all, I had built the empire. It only made sense to put my name on it.